Hey guys, welcome back to another interesting video on Wild Rift. Today we're back with the Samira updated complete guide for patch 4.2, and this is the first ADC we're looking at in this new patch, and is of course one of the ones I was really excited about to look at in patch 4.2. A lot of ADCs are exciting to look at: Jhin, Kai'Sa, Zeri, the list goes on and on. We're going to be covering all of those and more in the upcoming days and weeks as we slowly get in more games, get in more footage and get in more testing to see what kind of builds are good on all of them. But first up, we got Samira, which I'm fairly certain of the build already after testing her for multiple matches. So first up, you want to start off with Shieldbow. So Shieldbow, of course, is kind of an item made for Samira. She loves it. You get 40 AD, you get 25% crit, you get 15% attack speed. Now, Samira doesn't care about attack speed, but the rest is good, and 5% physical vamp. The part that Samira loves is the lifeline passive. So, damage that puts you below 35% health gives you a shield that absorbs 200, which of course scales off your crit damage. And of course, when you trigger that, you get extra 10% physical vamp. The reason this is amazing for Samira is very often when you're in your ulti, people are focusing you with their basic attacks, with their spells, and you actually drop down low. And if this triggers when you're in your ulti, this will not only, number one, cause you to survive and not die, but number two, gives you the extra physical vamp that when you're in your ulti and blasting multiple people at one go is going to help you heal up a lot. So basically, Samira just loves the stat line of this item. She loves the passive of this item. It's just an item that's beautiful for Samira. Next up, we go for the Collector. Now, I know that I said before, actually I have not said this before, I've said that I was wondering if Collector was good or not, but I'm saying it now. Collector isn't very good, but it's only good on a select few champions, and one of them is Samira. The reason why Samira works very well with the Collector is because, of course, you get a huge injection of AD, crit, as well as armor penetration. The armor penetration is great against squishy targets, which Samira loves to destroy with her ulti. But it's also good because it's passive. When people go below 5% health, you execute them and get extra gold. Now, the execute part generally doesn't work very well on most champions because we're in a very tanky meta still. Even though we had the ADC patch, tanks are still very strong with Twin Guard and the Sectra, so the execute part doesn't work very well against tanks. The Collector is meant to be played against squishies, not tanks. Despite 5% max health, you would think that tanks have higher max health, so it's more effective against tanks. But don't forget, this is an armor penetration item, and armor penetration only works against squishies, and also you basically use this to destroy squishies. Collector is a versus squishy kind of item. So reason why it works very well on Samira is because Samira launches a myriad, countless number of bullets with her ulti, and just one of them is to clip them to less than 5% health, and they're gonna get executed by the Collector. That's why Samira works so well with the Collector. Next up, we have the boots. Now, the boots, honestly, you can go for either of the defensive boot options. Boots of Fury and Lucidity boots doesn't really make sense, but more often than not, I'm actually going for Gluttonous Grease for more Omnivamp, because Samira just loves the Omnivamp. And also more often than not, I'm going for Quicksilver because generally there's one or more CC you need to cleanse away to prevent it from interrupting your ulti, or to just get out of the CC so you can actually fight an ulti in the first place. And Stasis is normally your other option, but I think I go 80% of the time Quicksilver and 20% of the time Stasis. And then afterwards, you go for your Bloodthirster, which of course gives you even more AD, crit, and more physical vamp, as well as the Bloodthorn shield when you're at max health. Afterwards, majority of the time when you get to this point, there's one or two tanky targets at this point in the enemy team. So you want to either go for Moral Reminder, which will give you the anti-heal in addition to the armor pen. And the anti-heal, of course, you only play it against, if there is multiple healing on the enemy team. Otherwise, you go for your Seralda's Grudge, which is really helpful to stop people from escaping your ult, but you only go for this if you don't need anti-heal. Majority of matches you do need anti-heal, and you're gonna have to get this. You of course don't go for LDR because you don't want to go to 125% crit. Finally, you go for IE, and IE sounds like an item you want to go second or third, which it kind of is, but you don't really have space in the build. You don't want to replace Shieldbow, Collector, or Bloodthirster with IE now. At most, you could swap Bloodthirster to later and go IE earlier, but in my opinion, Samira sustain with the Bloodthirster is more important than the raw damage you get from IE. So I like to go for IE as my last item and not my not my like third or fourth item, because if you can also go for this, like you can also delay your armor penetration, but most of the time you have a tanky character or two that you need to cut down, and you need the armor penetration at the fourth item. If not, it's really difficult for you to do anything. So that's why. So onto the runes and spells. So for the runes, it's always going to be Conqueror, because Conqueror gives you more AD and more lifesteal, which is obviously the two stats that Samira wants. All her items are focused towards like AD and lifesteal, so AD and lifesteal, AD and lifesteal, AD but no lifesteal here, and again more AD here. You just want the AD and lifesteal. Speaking of which, lifesteal on the Hunter Vampirism. No such thing as too much lifesteal when it comes to Samira. So more lifesteal. Now on the Resolve rune, you have two options. Your first option is Ultimate Shield, which after you cast your ultimate, you will get a shield, which is going to help you, tank damage when you're in your ulti. Your second option is going to actually be Bone Plating. Bone Plating mainly helps you in the laning phase because you have a really short range and you can get abused very easily in the laning phase, so this will help you quite a bit in the laning phase. And in case you guys are wondering, Perseverance is not good on Samira, and the reason it's not good is because Tenacity doesn't matter to Samira, because you don't want to get CC'd in the first place so your ultimate doesn't get interrupted. It doesn't matter if you get you get CC'd and you have more tenacity. It's not very important. The important part is to not even get CC'd at all in the first place, because if you get CC'd, you're gonna get cut out of your ultimate and you're gonna do no damage, because all your damage comes from your ultimate. So you don't want to go for Perseverance. Finally, you go for Nimbus Cloak. So now most ADCs as your last option is mainly between Nimbus Cloak and now surprisingly between Sweet Tooth. So Nimbus Cloak gives you movement speed when you cast your summoner spells, which is useful on everybody. But sometimes like Sweet Tooth may not even be that bad on like certain champions, like Samira for example, kind of can get destroyed in laning phase if you're against like a Caitlyn or someone that can bully you. So sometimes Sweet Tooth is even not too bad of an option. If not, like by default it's kind of like Nimbus Cloak. The new rune Transcendence is not good on many ADCs because ADCs generally don't care too much about certain ability cooldowns. Like having ability haste in general is useful, but having the level 11 thing where like after basic ability hits a target, reduce 15% of the ability's cooldown time. Most ADC spells like really short cooldown. Like think of like Kai'Sa Q, like Samira Q, like Ezreal Q. All Qs like are so short cooldown anyway. The 15% is like nothing. It's like 0 point something seconds. It doesn't actually matter. So it's not very useful in ADCs anymore. So it's mainly between Nimbus Cloak and Sweet Tooth. Finally, for the spells, you always want to go Flash, but for your second spell, you can go for Exhaust, or you can go for Barrier. Some Samiras do like taking Barrier to Barrier during your ultimate, but I prefer to take Exhaust because I just like having the Exhaust to like exhaust assassins or like to exhaust the other ADC when I'm 1v1. So anyways, with all that out the way, let's jump into talking about the gameplay. Okay, so now moving on to the gameplay itself. Now, of course, as usual, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the video. Any questions, queries, or remarks, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and we will, of course, be sure to address them. So anyways, of course, we are playing Samira, and as I mentioned in my basics guide, of course, check it out if you haven't, for the skills, leveling order, combos, tips and tricks, etc. And yeah, so as we said over there, she kind of works really well with Engage. And if you guys look at this team, this is a team full of Engage. We have an Alistar with the Headbutt Pulverize combo for the Engage. We have Yone ultimate, we have Yasuo Tornado, and like Yasuo's ultimate allows us to follow up as well. And if Kayn decides to go red form, we have another knockup from Kayn. So this is kind of a pretty dream match for Samira. Whereas if you look at the enemy team, there isn't a lot of CC that's easy to hit. Now the enemy team does have a lot of CC. In fact, all their champions have CC, but they aren't easy to hit. For example, if you're for Samira in her ulti flying around using her E, how is Swain going to land like his E return, and how is Jhin going to land his like W, like that thin beam? So it's really difficult for Swain and Jhin to CC us. I think for Jarvan it's not very easy as well, because his ult is not, it creates terrain but it's not CC. His EQ combo is the only thing that can interrupt us, and we can flash that or sidestep it in the ult possibly. The one that is most worrying is going to be the Riven, because Riven has a very fast stun on her W and is the main CC that's going to interrupt our ultimate. Whereas Jax has his counter strike, but we can either QSS that or it's more predictable because he does have to channel that spinning helicopter thingy before he is able to actually stun us, so that isn't going to be too big of an issue. It's mainly the Riven that is kind of going to be the problem with her W. Of course, she also has a knockup on her Q, but that one has to be charged up with 2 previous Qs, so it's a lot more predictable. So with Samira, it's not about not having any CC at all in the game, because it's pretty much impossible. There's pretty much no game where the enemy team has no CC, but it's sort of like about how bad is the CC. Like if you have, for example, like a set top that has like a ulti and like a E that's very easy to hit on you. You have like Pantheon jungle that has a point and click stun, and you have like a Vayne or Tristana ADC that has like a point and click condemn or like point and click buster shot. That is not a game that you want to be playing Samira in, because that is a game that the moment you ulti, somebody is going to stop you. There's no way that all of them have used their CC, or it's probably going to be very rare that all of them use their CC. You're going to get stopped in your ulti and you're not going to have a fun time. You're going to be completely useless in the game. So you don't want to be picking Samira if the enemy team has multiple forms of point and click CC. Trust me, when Samira first released, I was spamming her. I was like top like 0.3% Samira or something. I spammed her like every game, even games where any team had a lot of CC, and I learned the hard way that you don't want to be picking Samira when there's multiple forms of heavy CC. If there's one form of heavy CC, let's say there's like a Pantheon jungle, or let's say there's a Xin Zhao in the jungle who can ult you to interrupt your ulti. If there's one form of point and click CC, Samira is still playable. But if there's like 2 to 3, you probably don't want to play Samira anymore. So that's just a huge like tip that is gonna like save you guys a lot of defeats. You know, it's not even a Samira tip in terms of gameplay, but it's sort of just like how to pick Samira. Like, you don't want to pick Samira in certain team comps. Like, there's no two ways about it. So anyways, enough about like picking Samira. We talked about that for like 3 minutes or so already. We're gonna talk more about her gameplay itself. So here you can see we're in a lane and we're against Jhin and Swain. Now Swain has decent poke, as you can see with his W and his Q. Jhin has longer range than me as well, and he can also sort of like poke with his Q and his like general auto attack. So you can see that in the lane, reason why I've been talking so much about Samira, like picking Samira in general, because nothing much is happening in lane. Pretty much me and Alistar are getting pushed in. We are just picking up CS wherever we can, and we're trying to not have any action. Now there's certain instances, like certain lane opponents where like a Samira and Alistar can just go in level 2 or level 3, and you can just go for like an all-in kind of play. But this is certainly not one of the lanes, because we can get poked out, and you know, all-in lane loses to like a poke lane, so you don't really want to really fight in this instance. So yeah, I really don't want to fight them in this particular lane. So I'm just trying to farm up and get to like my items, and then hopefully we can fight them at the dragon. You can see that I'm getting poked a decent amount. I'm kind of going to like about half health. Alistar is also taking a decent amount of poke. I have no idea what he did here. He just randomly flashes in, and I try to like help him and save him, but it basically ends up getting me killed, which is obviously a big mistake. What I should have done there is just let him die, and he's gonna die anyways because Jarvan comes in for the dive. Although we are gonna get the trade kill onto the Jarvan, and Yone and Kayn are kind of like just rotating here and trying to catch out the enemy. Swain is left on 1 HP and he does go down. Yeah, but sometimes if you see your support do something stupid, it's probably the best to not try to compensate and try to help them, because what ends up happening here is we end up both dying. Whereas if I didn't go in after that weird flash that the Alistar did, I probably could have like survived and maybe he would have died. But yeah, that's certainly better than both of us dying, or it's certainly better than me dying instead of him. Of course, support, the life of a support is less valuable than the life of an ADC, simply because if an ADC is dead, they cannot be farming, they cannot be getting gold, and they cannot be getting to their item breakpoints, whereas on support, gold is a lot less important, and that's kind of like something that's factual. Although any kill is worth the same amount of gold to the enemy team, it's not about what the enemy team gains, it's also about what you lose. So anyways, here you can see we spawn an opportunity to go in, and we do go in, kill the Swain as well as the Jarvan after securing the dragon already. Now here Alistar gets the knockup on Jhin, so I'm flashing to kind of catch up, and we pick up the kill on the Jhin as well. So really nice, we secured the dragon, and we also got ourselves a couple of kills. Of course, I I didn't really mention that we have the Immortal Shieldbow from that back before dragon, so we had the Immortal Shieldbow up and ready for this fight. Didn't even need it, but yeah, so most of the time you should be able to get Immortal Shieldbow before the first dragon on any ADC, so long as you just farm well. as long as you're not missing too much CS, you should be able to get Immortal Shieldbow before the first dragon. Unless you do die like once or twice, then that could be an issue. But you guys saw, even dying once, I was still able to get myself the Immortal Shieldbow. So most of the time you should be able to get Immortal Shieldbow before first dragon, unless you're really losing really hard, which does happen from time to time, of course, but not every single match. So here there's a big fight at the Herald. Now I realize that I'm probably not going to make it there anyways, and I also realized that the whole enemy team is there in the fight. So I do the most logical thing, which is the cross map. So here I'm picking up this huge minion wave for one, and then we can see that we're gonna go for tower plays. Now despite us losing, not really losing, but despite us getting poked out to the point where we're always below half health by the enemy team, they haven't actually damaged our tower and they haven't actually gotten plates. The fact that the whole enemy team rotated over to the other lane meant that I get 3 plates, which is 450 gold. That's more gold than a kill. And then I also get like 2.5 waves in addition to like the 2.5 waves I already got before backing. And you guys can see that I'm now at 6k gold. In comparison, the Jin is like not even at 5k gold. Now granted, I do have 2 kills and he has like no kills. But even with 2 kills, he wouldn't have the same goal as me. So tower plates are of course really important, and we did take advantage of the fact that tower plates now only fall at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, and were able to secure 3 free plates. Now our next objective is to actually get the whole tower, because the tower is now really low. It's about 1k health or so after we've pummeled it down with like our auto attacks and was able to pick up the tower plates. Now there's no more tower plates, the tower is a lot more squishy, and of course the tower is ripe for the taking. Now here we spot Jin doing the skull, and now here I was trying to interfere, like either get damage on him or try to steal the skull, but because of Samira's limited range, there's not a lot I can do. But I managed to scare the Jin into rotating into the mid lane. Now of course control warding here to remove that ward and to ensure that I'm not gonna get ganked from behind as I'm trying to take this tower. 2 Jin traps, but doesn't really matter. I'm going to take this tower, and I'm going to also pick up this next minion wave. Alistar is shadowing me, so I'm not too afraid. Here Jarvan is coming in together with the Jin, but honestly, I'm not too scared. I think we could have fought 2v2 versus the 2 of them. Jarvan is not doing too hot. He does have a Yomus, and Jin has roughly the same itemization as me at the moment. I think with the help of Alistar, we should be able to fight them if really needed. But of course, we can just get the tower and just get out. No need to fight. And yeah, so here we picked up the collector. So you guys can see how the collector works in action. Another huge wave picked up by me. And we can see how the collector comes in when you cast your ulti. Now, not too much fighting so far. Mainly the only fight that's happened so far the entire game was the one at the dragon. Next dragon's coming up in another about 30 seconds or so. So I'm clearing out the bot lane wave and getting bot lane priority. And then we're going to see if we can rotate over to the dragon and try to contest. Now here we spot an overextension by the Jarvan as well as the Jax to try to go for a Herald play, but my team isn't quite ready to follow up. Now they are, so I'm going in with the ulti. We finish off the Jax, we finish off the Swain with the collector, as you guys can see there. And with the pick onto Swain and onto Jax, this should be a relatively free dragon because 2 of the enemy team members are dead. Of course, the dragon is still 20 seconds away from spawning, so we're gonna, in the meantime, back. I'm gonna pick up my Gluttonous Greaves and my QSS. Of course, QSS is gonna be pretty good in this match because even though it's hard to hit CC on me when I'm ulting, it's not that hard to hit CC on me when I'm not ulting. So there's still quite a number of CC I can easily QSS on the enemy team, like Swain's root, like Jin's root as well, Jax's stun, etc. So here, as mentioned, we're going straight for the dragon. The enemy jungle, which is the Jarvan, is on the top lane, so no chance of a steal there. He also hits a beautiful tornado into ulti, which allows me to get the follow-up with my dash on the passive. Here I'm trying to slowly charge up. You guys can see I wait for Jax Counter-Strike to go down, and here Jax is running away. I have my ulti. I'm going to flash in with the ulti, but I don't end up killing anybody, at least not yet. I exhaust the Riven so my team doesn't die to her, and Yasuo is able to finish her off. Here I'm trying to go on any team. I'm at B now, so I'm almost at S. Here I unfortunately don't hit the Jarvan, so I'm still stuck at B. Shieldbow pops and saves me. And here I'm able to get Collector onto Swain as well and go in onto the Jin without even needing my ulti. And we do pick up the kill. Excuse me. So here we can now focus on getting the tower. Now that only the Jarvan is left to defend and Jax is on the other side of the map. we can easily pick up this tier 2 tower, and then we can go into the enemy jungle and try to steal camps. So here I actually take the Gromp, but in hindsight I probably should have just gone for the blue buff instead. Because even though Samira is not the most mana hungry ADC in the world, she still uses a decent amount of mana, and probably denying a buff is going to be more useful than denying a Gromp. So kind of a minor misplay there, but not too important in the grand scheme of things. Now we can see Jack split pushing. I'm expecting Kayn or Yasuo to respond, but we end up having a big fight in mid lane instead. And here, majority of enemy spells are used up. Yone gets a beautiful engage. I have my ulti ready. I'm going in with my ulti and going in with the Collector to pick up a quick triple kill on the enemy team. Now here I'm pinging for the Baron, and at the same time, we also need to defend that top wave. So Yone is going back to base, hopefully to defend the top wave. And in the meantime, the rest of us are going for Baron control ward to make sure that enemy team does not have vision. And here we're just standing back and just blasting the Baron. Looks like Yone may ignore the wave. Yeah, Yone does ignore the wave, kind of annoying there, but yeah. So anyway, we do end up securing the Baron. Don't really need Yone's help here. Should have just gone for the wave. But anyways, here I'm gonna back and I'm gonna pick up my Bloodthirster. As I mentioned in the build section of the video, Yasuo ends up going for the wave, so we don't really have to deal with that. Now with the Baron buff active, of course now the nerfed Baron buff in a sense that you know, it lasts for a shorter duration. Now we're gonna hit out, and I was initially gonna pick up the red buff, but we spot a fight happening at the top lane. Jarvan left on 1 HP, Jax is probably going to die, and Swain is moving in. So here Kayn gets the kill onto the Jax, and Swain tries to go in for the kill onto the Yone. Doesn't quite work out for him, and here we're gonna go in. We got the S, but unfortunately Jhin does manage to hop the wall before we manage to ulti. Now here you look at this damage from Samira, just from my auto attacks, not even from my ulti. I'm kind of fed at the moment, 9-1 and 3, so I do kind of destroy the Jhin. Here Riven gets exhausted again. Can't really do anything, kind of slowly just charging up to the full, and then I'm going in with my ulti with the help of the Collector to finish off the Riven. So pretty much at this point, with the Baron buff, we should be able to push down some inhibitor towers, and we should be able to either end the game or at least threaten to end the game and put some pressure. So here you can see Jax trying to defend this tower, but there's not a lot he can do, because you can see I'm just walking away from his counter strike. I'm just blasting him with my range attack. He's already at half health, and I haven't actually even done anything to him yet. In a sense, I haven't actually gone in. I'm just like poking. So we do secure the inhib, and we're gonna hit over to mid and secure the tier 2. And yeah, it's pretty textbook at this point, just rotating the Baron buff around and just pushing on multiple lanes. And now I'm gonna actually just back, because Baron buff has run out, so a little bit hard to push now. I'm just gonna back. Hopefully my team doesn't fight here. I'm trying to ping them not to actually fight, and then I'm gonna pick up the components of the Mole Reminder, being the Executioner's Calling as well as the Last Whisper. Of course, the enemy team has, you know, decent amount of tankiness with the Riven and like Jarvan and Jax's general tankiness, even though they're not building tank. We're headed to the dragon to, of course, try to secure the triple dragon. You know, once again, should be relatively free because we have, you know, all push on all 3 lanes. So any team has to sort of commit to defending their lanes, and it's really hard for them to contest the dragon. So here we do pick up the dragon, and from here we can pretty much just try to run them down, and if we get a good team fight, we can probably just win the game. Jax goes in. The enemy team does actually surrender here, so we pretty much just won the game off securing the dragon. But anyways, gonna leave you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.